Welcome to episode 4, where we will be meeting and chatting to DJ, producer, podcaster, and all-round nice guy, Dan Kelly.
Yep, Dan will be sharing with us his journey through broadcasting from the early 2000s up until the present day and everything in between.
Hope you enjoy.
Welcome to B2B The Business Club podcast, episode 4. Today, our guest, instantly recognisable voice and face around the Midlands and Birmingham especially. Big thanks for coming in, Dan Kelly.
Face for radio, I'll say it before you do.
The style is
That's what they say, isn't it? Yeah. You alright?
Good, very well.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm good. Sorry for being a bit late.
That's alright.
I thought it was on Zoom. So I phoned up with about 10 minutes ago saying, I've not got the link yet.
That's my communication skills for you.
That's all good. I'm glad. It only took me 10 minutes, so yeah.
So obviously most people will already know who you are, but could we have a little introduction from you about yourself?
You are correct. My name is Dan, and I've been annoying people in Birmingham on the radio for many years. Back in the Galaxy and Capital FM days. I'm still on radio. You can still hear me in Birmingham, but the studio's based in Liverpool at a place called Inderman Radio. I do a podcast called Stillbirth, which is taking up most of my time at the moment, and just generally being a voice on a stick. So I was doing the Birmingham Academy Awards just a couple of days ago, Player Awards on Sunday, which will be interesting because obviously we're doing this just before the final game of the season, so it's going to make for an. How are you guys feeling about it, by the way? Because when people see this, it'll be after. So
you will. We said before this about saying too much during the interviews, but
that's that. I think
absolutely
that's it,
no idea.
I think my heart says yes, and my head says no. But it's looking a bit bleak. Let's see how
we shall see
when it comes out. Yeah,
we'll
do 2 edits where we say, "Oh yes, we stayed up." Or...
I like, by the way, the differences in the dress. You've come as like a smart vicar. And Chris ain't bothered at all.
Brilliant. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Right. So you mentioned what you're doing now. You mentioned the charity work podcast.
Yeah.
But if we can we go back to the beginning?
Okay.
Wind it back to pretty much where all the stories tend to start on the Business Club podcast. It's all around 99, 2000. So your first foray into radio's choice.
It was.
You can bring that mic down a little bit if you want.
Yeah.
Just so we can see your face.
There we go. Is that better?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, my first job in radio was 1998. So I just turned 20 that year. Before that, I'd left college. So I left school after my GCSEs, went to college to do a BTEC, which I don't think they do anymore, do they? BTEC in Media Studies.
No, it's all changed different names, isn't it?
In Leicester, my home city. And and Choice FM came about because I was travelling through Birmingham on a National Express bus to see a girl that I was seeing who lived in Shrewsbury at the time. What was that? This was 1997, so I was like 19 years old. And I got stuck at Digbeth coach station for 7 hours because there was delays and cancellations and all sorts. So I had my personal stereo, old school, and popped on the radio and mooching about the stations. And I was like, I like this. So I found out what station name it was, and then I thought, right, I'm gonna get after them.
Okay.
I guess I nosed them, just sent loads of letters and phone calls and asking for work experience. And it was one of those, I guess I was quite, because I knew I didn't want to do a proper job, and I wanted to do something that was a passion, wasn't it? Yeah, I know it's a cliche, but the whole do something you love and you don't work a day. I'm not sure if that's the official one, but you know the cliche I'm getting at. So that was kind of it, really. So I got work experience at Choice FM 1997. I was working after I left college. I was working in Tesco's, stacking the old bananas and the potatoes in the produce section part-time after I left college. So I got my work experience, and then one thing led to another, and I got offered an opportunity to be the traffic scheduler, which is nothing to do with roads. So when you hear the adverts, quite normally when people switch off on a commercial station, I was the person that scheduled all of those.
Okay.
And as a way into the station, and I did an overnight show on Fridays into Saturday. So I'd be there on a Friday from 9 in the morning till about 6, and I'd be back to do my show at midnight, 1 a.m. till 6 the next morning, and then try and stay awake driving home. But I was 19, 20 years old, so it was brilliant.
It's kind of like just trying to get your foot in the door, and then
exactly that. And so that became Galaxy in 1st January 1999. So a company called Chrysalis bought it. Galaxy was a station that already existed in a few places. Bristol, Leeds, Manchester, I think at the time, were the only ones. I think Newcastle as well. And from that, I took on the same role and still was doing the overnight show at the weekend. Scheduling the adverts was not really going to be what I wanted to do full time for the rest. I wasn't particularly good at it either.
Right.
I was just seeking opportunity, but I was happy to be in the environment, and be able to ask people questions and see some of the presenters and constantly making excuses to nip into the studio and see what was going on. So, that was kind of how it started from Choice FM.
So from the outlay initially, you literally, that was what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the conversations we have are people doing something and then they go, do you know what, this isn't, I know there's something else I want to do. So from the off.
Pretty much, yeah. I think when I was at school, I have early memories of being about 7, and I don't know why, but I wanted to be a jeweller. I'm not sure, I just saw the shops and everything kind of sparkled. That quickly went, and toyed with the idea of being a policeman. I was never going to be too tall for that, tall enough for that. So, joking aside, it was pretty much the only thing. I used to sit in my bedroom and talk to myself into a little...
Mixtapes.
Yeah, the old Fisher-Price yellow bubble-looking stereo had a tiny hole on it. I was like, it's a microphone. So to talk into that, I get my personal stereo again, put the earmuffs over it, press play on whatever Now album I had on cassette, and introduce the songs and pretend I was on the radio. I made my own station, imaginary station, which was called City Rap, which was City for Leicester City and Rap for Music. I think that was the strap line. Obviously, it never took off. So I was talking to myself a lot in my room, which I think might have concerned my mum at the time, but but here we are. So that was it. I was quite single-minded about doing it.
Yeah, and obviously you've always been quite extrovert then.
I don't know. Do you think so?
Yeah. Well, even so obviously we'll fast forward a little bit, but even like the current day, you compare Dan St Andrews, don't you? And a lot of the time, it's not the greatest mood. So you need to then raise the mood. But again, kind of like when we spoke to people who are in sales, things like that, being extrovert and even having a thick skin. You think you're quite a thick skin for?
Do you know what? It's a good question. I wouldn't say I'm extrovert. I think there's a slight difference from when you're on, whether it's on air in a room hosting or something. It's probably just a more amplified version of my natural self. I wouldn't say I'm massively extroverted, and in some areas I'm gonna be quite shy. It depends. I think when I'm in that environment, that's probably when I'm at my most confident, and that's when I'm at my, sometimes I wish I could be that version of myself in other areas of life. So maybe not extroverted, but there's a switch where it kind of gets turned up a little bit, and I think that just comes from. I mean, look, I'm a bit long in the tooth now. That's probably come from just over all the years I'm 45, so it's been a while since I did the first step into these waters. So yeah.
It's like your first radio.
I was still bold as well back then when I started. 2000.
Continuity. People recognise you.
Yeah, I got offered one of those hair transplant tattoo things that you can get. So if people actually saw me with hair after all these years, it would freak people out. So that's never going to happen.
That's what they say to me. Why don't you dye your hair? So I'd turn up, to football or something with jet black hair, and people are just going to go, oh, yeah, you're right.
People quite like the silver fox thing, though, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, they used to until Schofield.
Yeah, Schofield was damaged there, didn't they? I spoke to a hair transplant clinic, and
I said
it's gone on a tangent already, isn't it?
Yeah. Said irreparable.
But he told me, so
you don't even need it. Stop showing off.
Well, he suggested a fringe, and he drew it on because we have like a Teams, and he drew it on. This is how it'll be. And I showed it to my wife. She was horrified. She's like, you can't all of a sudden have a fringe.
Oh, just to put it lower down?
Yeah, we'll have like a curtain from there. So, yeah, and so it's not for everyone, is it?
Don't do that.
No, you guys don't need it. Trust me, you're fine.
Don't do that. Yeah.
So, from Choice, where did we go from there?
Yeah, Choice FM, like I said, that became Galaxy,
Yep.
which was... So I started full-time at Choice, 1998, January. Galaxy came about January 1999 when the takeover, and it was brilliant. I loved it. Like I said, I wanted to move into presenting. That was the area, and there wasn't really... I wasn't ready for it anyway. I was, still learning the basics of finding the personality on air, how to be a presenter, which is to a level that they needed. But I was getting experience by doing the overnight shows, which mostly was people phoning, especially on a station like Galaxy, but it was a lot of people phoning up at 3:30 in the morning. They just left Caspian's or Mr. Egg or wherever it was, and I couldn't understand the word they'd say down the phone. But it was fun, and I got an opportunity towards the end of '99 to move to the UAE. There was a new station which was getting launched over there, an English station. And my manager at the time knew one of the people. It's like networking, isn't it? Or, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So there was an opportunity. Like I said, I was still 20. I remember I moved to Dubai the week before my 21st birthday. So I arrived out there and I was all excited because I was to be on this brand new station called Radio 1 and to do the afternoon show, I think it was at the time. So yeah, I headed off over there. September 1999, turned 21. And expected only to do a year. I came back 4.5 years later. It was in 2 stints. I did come back for 6 months, but overall 4.5 years later, with a wife.
Right.
Which wasn't what I thought. It was just going to be a year out. We're still together.
Excellent.
So yeah. So,
How did you find
yeah.
that? So obviously now there's a big subculture of expats, influencers, isn't there? There's a big British influence over there now. Obviously,
Massive, yeah.
Back then,
Yeah.
you would have been one of the trailblazers as such. What was it like kind of trying to, at that age, kind of find your feet and live there? Was there a community of...
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was an amazing place, and it still sticks in my mind to this day. I'm not ruling out ever living there again. You never know what's around the corner. But one thing I do remember was you could go out to dinner, right? And maybe there's 6-7 people at the table. Every single person would have been from a different country or a different culture, and so you got to really, it was a proper melting pot from all over the world because of where it is as well. It's right in the middle, East meets West, so many Australians, South Africans, people from Russia, Americans, Canadians. I'm not going to name every country in the world, you get the idea.
Yeah.
So you're all in there, so that was great, and it was, I love talking to people, I like social environments, so I think, that helps, and it was at that age as well, just to get to know people. I went out there. Like I said, I didn't know anyone apart from the guy who'd done my interview, but I didn't know him that well at the time. As it happens, I'm now working with him again. His name's Rick Horton at the radio station I'm currently at, so it's kind of come full circle a little bit. And it was a challenge. So the first time I was out there, I came back after 10 months because I hadn't been paid still. And to this day, I still haven't. So the company, none of the staff did. That was a massive challenge because I think dealing with it at 21 years old was had a lot more patience than maybe I would now because it was, I'm young, still not fully grown up, my brain's still quite immature. So yeah, I was in a hotel room and no money coming in, couldn't do any laundry because I had no money to pay, so I was literally just in my swimming shorts for about 8 months and a t-shirt, trying to just carry on and do the show because I was enjoying the job. But the station and the company, which no longer exists, so that's why we'll never get paid. It just wasn't going to happen, and it was a big learning. It was a big life curve in terms of learning about how things operate and what needs to be done, and how maybe I'd tackle it differently as compared to now. So I kind of just went with the flow because I enjoyed it, hoping that one day I was quite naive, thinking everything will be all right, and one day I'll just get a big
the
check.
love of the job. We might get paid.
Like I said, I was
Not
just
being paid in that
21, yeah.
infamously cheap place to live, Dubai.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's cheap if you don't do the tourist trap. So obviously when you live in there, you get to know that of the underbelly of the city, I guess, where you could turn up after work, have a couple of pints and a bowl of chicken wings, and it's about 7-8 quid. Whereas if you fly over, you're going to get the same thing for about 400. So, but yeah, it was great. the city and the country certainly gets under your skin, and you kind of have to be ready to leave. So, explains because I went back. So I came back to England for about 6 months. Going, right, I've had enough. Missed it terribly. Had an opportunity to go back because they said, "Oh, we fixed it now. You'll get paid." So I went back. Same problem. So what I did the second time around was just go to a different station in the country called Channel 4 FM, which was more established, and they paid you on time, so I could do things like buy food and.
So the second time, the same thing.
Yeah. So the first time I just had a beanbag on the floor, and I slept on the floor, which wasn't good when you're single on the prowl.
Do you want to come back to mine?
Yeah.
Can we then talk about for a moment Galaxy Breakfast? Dan Kelly at breakfast.
Yeah, wow.
Can I just interject here that you're one of my brother's heroes, and when we got him on, when we got you on, he was kind of like, yeah, he wants to get a T-shirt of you and everything or something.
I was going to get a Dan Kelly at breakfast T-shirt, but I couldn't find an image anywhere on the internet to get one printed.
What?
Notoriously quite hard.
Yeah.
As far as the internet history of you.
Well, it was kind of before. Well, when I started Galaxy Breakfast, that was before social media, because it was September 2005. So I joined Galaxy when I came back from Dubai. And so I got married end of 2002. We came to England in May 2003, came back on to Galaxy, started doing the evening show. And then after a year of that, Breakfast came about, which was a massive step up in my career and a massive step up in terms of challenge, because it was a vastly different show from being on evenings, talking every 3 songs. And it's more of an evening style show, so maybe in the mix or very much focused the content around the music. Suddenly you're on Breakfast and it's a whole different ball game. And the first year was first year there was a lot of self-loathing, because you go home every day going, I can't do this. And eventually you start to understand more, the team evolved and really grew into it, and something which I thought might only last for 18 months or so became the next decade of my life. And yeah, really, really fond memories of it. It ended at the right time, but yeah, I really, I still keep in touch with most of those people.
I was going to say onto that, obviously you had quite a dynamic duo at the peak.
Oh, Katie. Yes, I love Katie.
And obviously you had the switch then, where you're going from one point to... What was it like trying to recreate that dynamic? From Jess to Katie?
So Jess was the first co-host that we had when I first joined, and she'd been on the station for years anyway, so she was very synonymous with Dave Clark, who was the host previous to me. And we got really well. We speak occasionally now. But we only did the show for about 18 months with the old producer as well, which was still associated with the former show. And she got an opportunity to go. I can't remember which newspaper it was, but the showbiz pages in the middle. It was either the Sun or the Star, one of those.
Bizarre.
Yeah, one of the. I'm not sure which one it was, but she moved on and did that.
Okay.
So we got a new producer, a guy called Paul Phelps, who I pretty much changed my career from what I learned from him. He's now, I'm pretty sure he still is at Capital Breakfast in London. So it was Roman Kemp, Johnny Vaughan before that. And we got, so he knew Katie, and we just clicked. She's one of my best friends. The fact that it's 10 years since we finished that show, and we still talk most days. We're in a group, me, Katie, and our old producer, Ben. Posh Ben, if you remember him.
Yeah.
So you used to listen then, did you?
Yeah, well, I was driving around in a van most mornings and evenings, so... Yeah.
Did you ever enter any competitions or send in a confession?
We came up to the arcade, and you had a singles night or something in one of the bars.
Oh, yeah.
Like a or it might have been a quiz night, a singles quiz night.
Yeah, we did a few. Yeah, we did one called karaoke, where you came and had a curry and sang. We just thought it was quite a good pun.
I think we got
that.
Yeah, we enjoyed getting there, because obviously our social currency, I guess, was because we didn't have a big budget, we didn't have any marketing, and it was and we were up against stations like Heart and Miles at the time. So our approach was just, we are amongst you lot, and you could. Just every day, which I think we are anyway. So when we're off air, we'll see you down the pub or the bar, the same shops. Might bump into you at Audi. So we just wanted to get out there and meet people and just be in their lives as much as we could. And we always get a lot of. Whenever I hear feedback from anyone, if they go, "Oh, you're that guy," I had it on Friday at the Academy Awards, and it's like, "Oh yeah, it was the banter." That's what we always used to get. As much as I'm not keen on that word, but yeah, and it's good that sticks, because I think one thing about radio, especially mainstream radio, which I'm not massively a fan of. I understand why it's done, but it's the never-ending premium rate competition. So couldn't do any content other than telling you to spend £2 sending a message to win some money that you're highly unlikely to ever see or win. Someone will, but most, ultimately one person.
Yeah.
But I mean, I get why it has to be done, but breakfast enabled us to have an environment where we could just have some fun, as well as doing competitions and all that. But we wanted people to listen because they enjoyed what was coming out of the speakers, as well as having an opportunity to win something.
Just touching upon that as well, if they see you in the shops, they see you as you who's on the radio. You're not it's not a facade. Like you say, you've got that character, but you're all-round nice guy, and you'll kind of be like, it's not a never meet your hero situation, is it? Like Chris is doing right now.
Well, I mean, again, because it was like pre-social media, around the time I started, obviously that kind of came into play while we were doing it, but it was more of people wouldn't reckon, I'm just some dude off the radio in one city. It wasn't like, oh, there's Dan. Some people might recognise the voice, but most of the time that would happen if I was like DJing in somewhere in town, which was normally just play me my song, you bold idiot.
Yeah.
I got that guy off the radio.
Wouldn't it be funnier if your voice was like really high pitched?
One thing I was used to get was, I've heard you off the radio. I don't listen to you. I was like, why say that then? Just like, yeah.
Just don't.
Oh, it made me laugh. Yeah.
I think that's a weird build up and knock you down in one sentence.
Yeah, I think it's just sometimes people just feel the silence, and it was quite an opener or something, and I used to find it quite funny. Yeah, I don't listen to you. My mum, one I get now is I didn't listen to you, but my mum did. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm getting old now.
Yeah.
But no, it was great. Enjoyed it.
Like a no holds barred situation where we see you in real life, you go, hello there.
So what was that like in regards to workload for you? Obviously, you're presenting for 3-4 hours on the show. What kind of hours are you having to put in at its peak?
On the breakfast show?
Yeah.
So, we quickly run through a day. So we're on air at 6, so we'd get there about 5 to. We'd aim to get there for about 5:30 because we'd done most of the prep the day before. So we're on air 6 till 10. The whole show was live. None of it was pre-recorded. We'd finish at 10, have a little break. We'd get back together, listen back to some of the show with the manager or producer. So it's instant feedback. So if you're tight, it can be quite brutal, and some days it can be quite nice to, here you go, whatever feedback you get. But you're constantly getting told every single day about how good you are at your job or how bad you are at your job. Any particular, you're only as good as your last show, I guess. Yeah. So then we'd start having a look about, some themes that are developing, how we can continue it, if there's anything topical in the news, stuff that might be obvious but we should reference but maybe not go to town on. Like one thing was, every year you get the GCSE at A-level results, and some stations always get someone in to open them, and they always get A's, don't they? I was like, let's get someone in who's failed. But that'd be quite mean. So we just plan whatever we thought was going to be topical for the day, but we could change it at any moment. There was an element of spontaneity, so we roughly know where we're going to start, where it might finish, but the middle part, hopefully that's the bit which we didn't want to overly contrive. As long as we had a basic structure and we kind of knew where we were going to go. And obviously as the stronger our relationship and our dynamic got together, myself and Katie, joined up with the connection with the audience, that became, it's like a snowball effect, isn't it? So that became, the more you did it, the bigger the connection.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Just to kind of conclude on that period then, obviously then there was the time of another takeover.
Yeah.
So you said earlier,
Capital, yeah.
Yeah, you said earlier, obviously not a massive fan of the conglomerates kind of picking up all the stations and merging. And I remember one of the days I listened to when it became Capital.
How did you feel? Yeah, because you were a listener, so what was your...
That was the beginning at the end for me as a... We like Galaxy, we could dance on, but there was nothing else like Choice before that to say.
It was
nothing
yeah.
else like it, was that?
It was niche in that regard. What Capital offered, which Galaxy couldn't, was a bigger budget, a broader appeal, which is good and bad depending. And look, it's such a subjective thing because you're going to get more audience if you're playing more recognisable songs all the time, and in turn that's going to bring in more revenue. So it's only speaking from it didn't really affect too much the content that we could do. And so it would have been different for me if I was still doing like an evening or more of a music-based show, because I wasn't as passionate about that. But because we were still doing like a show which was content-based, so actually that gave us the opportunity to bring us to a much larger audience. And I think I think it was 5 years on Galaxy and 5 years on Capital as we went through the transition. That was our total run on Breakfast. And I think from when we started to the end over those 10 years, it was something like 50% overall increase in the audience. Obviously, a lot of that is down to the fact that it was just a news station, which gave us that bigger appeal, adverts all over the TV and stuff, and hopefully partly because people enjoyed the show as well. So for that, I thank them for it. It was a good learning experience again, because each chapter from Dubai to Galaxy to Capital gave me an opportunity to learn things in a different way that I hadn't seen before. Different styles of management, different styles of man management, things that I thought were good, things that I know that I didn't really react well to that might work with somebody else. But yeah, all in all, I don't really have a bad word to say about them. It was the right time. So I left after 10 years after a contract, which I signed, and then the next day I was a bit of an idiot. I was like, sorry, I just felt ready. So I left. I thought, leave before, while I was still enjoying it. Katie stayed for a couple more years, I think 2 or 3, and she's now living in France. But yeah, it was good times, man. It was good times. I mean, if I hadn't left, I definitely would have been told to sling my up by now. But yeah, it was fun. Do you still listen ever?
No, not really.
How old are you though?
41.
Yeah, so we're not. It's not aimed at us now.
No.
But you listen to TalkSport.
TalkSport, Radio X.
Yeah.
It's kind of you're following it out, aren't you? Radio
We're
2
talking
a
about
little
this
bit
today,
too.
Yeah, we're talking about this night.
Yeah.
Radio X audience now is us, because they've moved from Radio 1. We've listened there. It's just a tried and tested. So they're holding on to us, aren't they? 40-year-olds that like the indie.
That's okay a little bit for again that kind of music, but for me personally, I like dance, R&B, hip hop.
Yeah, Radio X is probably not the place for you then.
Like you were saying there, where you're working in demand radio, you're kind of playing. You're still on that vibe, aren't you?
Yeah, it's in demand radio, which is it's the first time I worked for an independent station. So after I left Global, which was Capital, I joined Free Radio in Birmingham, which then got bought out by a company called Bauer. They cut a lot of staff. I was one of them. So I joined another station which was in Stoke called Signal, which was owned by a different company again, Wireless, who actually I think owned TalkSport at the time. And then Bauer came and bought that one. So I had the same situation. I was like, I knew him straight away. So I had an opportunity to join In Demand Radio, which is a new station. It's based up in Liverpool, independent, 3 years ago. And they just did a gig last Saturday at the M&S Bank Arena in Liverpool. I guess the equivalent of Birmingham's NEC, and sold it out. 20,000 people in there. Right. Do this. It's like history, I guess. But a bit more emphasis on dance music because it's based up in Liverpool. So I go up and do my show from there sometimes, but most of the time I do it from Birmingham. And it's great. And they offer a lot of hope, I think, for smaller stations and independent stations to see that actually if you go about it the right way, there's because it's tough, because there's the money out there. It's hard to get, especially competing against the juggernauts of the industry. And they're really doing well, man. Yeah, I'm very proud of them. I'm enjoying being part of it, and that was good because it helped me. I hadn't fallen out of love with radio, but I definitely was going, this is not where I'm going to be forever. I don't want to be doing this exact thing at 55, 60. So there's got to be, and that's, I guess, in a way, the evolution, which I know we'll get into a bit podcast, but with lockdown, that kind of changed everything, didn't it? And the way that everything evolves. So yeah, I think everything, although there's regrets along the way, but that's life, isn't it? Everything, I think, more or less has happened organically and at the right time. And I've always been a believer in follow your gut instincts. Obviously, can't make rash decisions, but more often than not, the feeling that I've had has been the right choice further down the line when I've looked at it retrospectively. So hopefully that'll continue.